We toss that word professional around all the time, right? A professional athlete, well, they get paid for their sport. A professional carpenter clearly knows their stuff. But what does it really, truly mean to be part of a profession? Well, turns out there's a much more specific definition, and getting this is absolutely key to understanding why we put so much trust in people like engineers, lawyers, and doctors.
Okay, so let's really get into this. We get why an athlete is a pro. They're not an amateur. They get paid. But that's not the same reason an engineer is called a professional. Not at all. Their title, that word, it implies something way deeper about their skills, their education, and most importantly, their fundamental responsibility to all of us. So, what is the difference?
To really get to the heart of it, let's just quickly break down these three words. A job, that's pretty simple. It's work for hire. An occupation, that's what you do to make a living. But a profession? Now that's a whole other league. It's defined by sophisticated judgment, a serious educational background, and a core promise to serve the public good.
So, what are the ingredients? What's the secret sauce? Sociologists have actually broken it down into 4 key pillars that really separate a true profession from any other kind of work. And once you see them, the difference becomes crystal clear. First up, a profession demands sophisticated skills and the use of judgment. We are not talking about routine assembly line work that you could automate. No, this is all about navigating complex situations where there isn't some easy, by-the-book answer. It requires real discretion and independent thought. And that judgment, it's way beyond a simple technical choice, like a mechanic deciding to replace a car part. We're talking about making major decisions that can have serious, sometimes life or death impacts on people, and often involve massive sums of money. That is a completely different level of responsibility. The second pillar is extensive formal education. A professional can't just learn their craft on the job or through an apprenticeship. Nope. They need a deep theoretical foundation that only comes from years of university-level study. This academic background is what powers that high-level judgment we were just talking about.
Third, professions are self-governing. Think about it, the American Bar Association for lawyers, or all the various engineering societies. These aren't just social clubs, right? The public actually trusts these organizations to set the standards for who gets in, to define what ethical conduct looks like, and, this is crucial, to enforce those standards.
And finally, number 4, a profession has to serve a significant public good. The work isn't just about making a client or a boss happy, it has to ultimately benefit society as a whole. A doctor's work promotes public health. An engineer's work ensures public safety. This commitment is the bedrock of the whole thing. Okay, so if professionals are constantly making these high-stakes judgment calls, how do they make sure they're making the right ones? What's their North Star for navigating all those tricky ethical gray areas? Well, their primary tool is a code of ethics. Now, don't think of this as just a list of rules to keep you out of trouble. It's way more than that. It's a foundational framework, a public promise of the principles that guide every single person in that profession.
A code of ethics does a few really powerful things. For one, it sets the standard for what normal, ethical behavior even looks like. It gives clear guidance for those really tough, specific situations. And here's a big one. It acts as a shield, giving a professional backup if a boss ever pressures them to do something shady. And finally, it's a message to all of us, to the public, that they take this responsibility seriously.
But theory is one thing. Let's see how this all plays out when the rubber meets the road. We're going to dive into a classic case from the 90s, where a company's professional ethics were put to the ultimate test under massive public pressure, the famous Intel Pentium flaw.
So picture this. It's 1994. The Intel Inside campaign is everywhere. Intel is on top of the world. Their brand new Pentium chip is the gold standard in every new PC. But then, news starts to trickle out, first in tech journals, then in major newspapers. There's a flaw in the chip, a bug that could cause errors in very specific, complex math problems.
So how did Intel handle it? Well, it unfolded over a few really tense months. At first, they basically tried to downplay it, saying it was no big deal. But as the story spread, the public got more and more worried. People who had just spent thousands on new computers were furious, and they wanted their faulty chips replaced. The pressure just kept building and building, until Intel finally had to completely reverse course.
See, here's the crucial part. Intel's initial response was all about how they saw the problem. Their engineers argued that for the average person, the flaw was totally insignificant. It would almost never show up. They tried to define the issue from a purely technical point of view, but they completely, and I mean completely, misjudge how the public would see it.
This whole debacle ended up costing Intel hundreds of millions of dollars and was a huge black eye for their reputation. But in the long run, it taught the company, and really the whole tech industry, an incredibly powerful lesson about what it means to be a professional and the sacredness of public trust.
And this was the fundamental shift, the game-changing lesson. Intel learned that it wasn't up to their brilliant engineers to decide if a flaw was significant. In the court of public opinion, the only thing that mattered was the customer's perception. They realized their professional duty was to honor that trust, not just the technical specs.
And this wasn't just some empty PR promise. We actually saw this new philosophy in action just 3 years later. When a couple of minor flaws were found in the next generation of chips, Intel didn't argue, they didn't delay, they immediately confirmed the issue and offered a software fix to every single customer. The lesson had been learned loud and clear.
So what's the big takeaway here? The line between just having a job and being part of a profession is drawn with public trust. As that Intel story shows, ignoring that trust, even for what seem like good technical reasons, can be absolutely disastrous. And it brings the question right back to all of us, doesn't it? No matter what you do for a living, what's the code, written or unwritten, that guides you? When your judgment is tested, who do you ultimately serve?